Hello there, friends. Allow me to introduce you to Jack Thorne, an English Bristolian screenwriter, most notable recently for being one of the writers and creators of the Netflix series Adolescence, which featured heavy-handed involvement from the government as well, great support from Keir Starmer's government in the fight against insultdom and the masculinity spheres on the internet. What's the name for them again? The manosphere. Yes, we needed to fight back against those evil influencers like Andrew Tate using the power of television, and this has been a frequent thing throughout the past 100 years. Whoever controls media, whoever controls the stories and narratives that people absorb, have great influence over the public mind. As such, Adolescence was set to be put into classrooms so that teenagers could be taught to hate being manly, being big, strong, manly men as early as possible so that they can make better slaves. I thought I'd also take a look through Jack Thorne's IMDb page while we're here, and you can go back to his earliest work through screenplays and find that he's worked on programs like Shameless, which he wrote an episode of. He wrote a few episodes of Skins. He was the writer on This Is England 86, 88, and 90, which were TV miniseries, and he was the screenwriter for the Netflix Enola Holmes and Enola Holmes 2 as well. So what I learned through looking through this man's writing history is that his entire career has been dedicated to libeling the English working classes as alternatively welfare collecting drunkards in the case of Shameless, hedonistic sex and drug addicts in the case of Skins. And I must say as well, I remember growing up when Skins was a new thing, and the way that they were trying to advertise Skins was they were justifying a lot of the subject matters it broached as being cautionary tales, warnings to young teenagers about the dangers of drugs and sex, overindulging in those as a lifestyle. I will say to all of the people that I knew, all the people that I knew in school who actually watched it, it seemed to have the opposite effect of glamorizing them. And so people tried to emulate this incredibly unrealistic sex and partying lifestyle, which showed these teenagers, very young teenagers in some cases, trading sexual partners, like one new one every weekend, and it was set these really unrealistic expectations for people that they tried to emulate, and a lot of those people who tried to emulate them took some pretty bad turns in life. So that's pretty bad. So yes, he wants you to think the English working class are drunkards and welfare scroungers, are drug addicts and sexual deviants, and in the case of This Is England, just violent racists. Obviously violent racists. So this man has been spending his entire career thus far libeling the English working class, and we get the same thing in Adolescence. This is nothing new. This is a continuation of the themes that he's been playing on his entire career. But it's good to know when you're looking at the kind of work that a man like this produces, what kind of man he actually is. And happily, we got a very good look at that at the most recent Question Time, where there were some clips released of him speaking about the pressure on young boys to look and behave in a masculine way that's been put on them by incels and by the manosphere and people like Andrew Tate. And I think if we watch through a little bit of this clip, we'll get a good read for who Jack Thorne is and why it is that he might want to write programs that insult and libel the working class, who traditionally in England are known for being very masculine, very confident, and full of testosterone.
Incel culture and the manosphere are terrifying things that are coming for our young men, and they want to involve them in it. In terms of what healthy masculinity looks like, you know, I get questioned as my own masculinity all the time because of the show I made, because I don't look like a certain type of man, and that worries me. Not that.
What do you mean? What do they say?
Well, if you looked at the comments in terms of when I was announced for this panel tonight, there was about 30 or 40 questioning the way I look and the sort of person I am, and whether I'm a soy beard twat, I think was one of the things that was
I think that's about enough of that, and that's all I can bear to watch, really. So, from that, you can get a pretty good read on who this man is and what's motivating the works that he has created thus far, which is you can tell by the look of him, the narrow shoulders, the strangely oversized toddler esque head. Compared to how narrow his shoulders are, the receding hairline, which I would say just shave it all off, mate, that what we're seeing here is a weak man. He can barely get through a full sentence on camera without tripping up over himself and losing track of where he's going. He has this incredibly strange head down way that he's addressing people, like he can't bear to look them in the eye. Clearly, he is a very weak man. In other ages, I would describe this man as a natural slave. I would not be surprised if he was bullied in school. As such, he feels threatened. Obviously, he feels threatened by the confidence and sincerity of people who make up the English working class. He feels threatened by their sense of solidarity with one another. And through shaping media narratives, men like this, and it is always men like this shaping media narratives because they have no influence in life elsewhere, so they hire each other to write programs insulting the people who are naturally stronger than them. They want to influence people into becoming weak in the same way that they are. And this is a man who I think is born with very unfortunate genetics, given his bone structure. However, he could be doing things to make himself better. He could eat more to put a bit of weight on. He could have a protein-rich diet and actually hit the gym, but he's afraid to do those things because, in this man's mind, an idea of healthy masculinity is being a woman. That's always the message that I get from this. We live in the feminized society. The message from adolescence that was being pushed by the media, whether it actually reflects in the program itself is one thing, but it was being pushed by the media in the same way that all of these anti-masculinity messages are, which is that boys are defective women. They're not empathetic enough. They're not caring enough. They're not selfless enough. They care too much for things like strength and solidarity with one another. They don't have enough preference for the out-group as opposed to the in-group. They care about status. All of these things are seen as negatives that must be curtailed through the use of media manipulation and influence through media narratives, which is what this man has been doing for a long time. And sadly, it does work because most people get their understanding of the world in the current age from media narratives, and mostly fictional media narratives. The amount of people that I've met in England who think that every Texan is some kind of cowboy hat wearing, rootin' tootin' bigoted racist of the most stereotypical kind is absurd when these people have never met a Texan and never been to Texas. They only have one reference point, which is the television that they have consumed, which has been made by men like this who wanted to insult them, who wanted to make them look bad, because we have been living in Revenge of the Nerds world for decades at this point. As well as that, the idea that people have of the English working class, who again are very loyal people, very strong people, mostly very kind people, that people's influence of them has been malformed and influenced by the exact writings of this man through programs like This Is England, which took the desire for working class men of the 1970s and 80s and 90s to protect their communities, protect their neighborhoods from the encroaching disaster that was mass immigration, and turned it into something that wasn't based on love, that wasn't based on care for their community, but was based entirely on bigoted hate of the other, which is what people think this is now. That's what people think the working class is. It's this middle class snobbery perpetuated by men like this, the weak men making hard times. So thought I'd just give that a little look in, a little insight into the kind of men making our media, who have been making our media for decades right now. And yeah, I can't wait until people of actual talent who aren't quite so bitter and nihilistic are making stories of heroism, of strength, of glory again. Things that will inspire you to do good. because you shouldn't listen to men like this. You should aspire to be strong and provide for your family.